Hello, my name is James Thompson, and this is going to be my speech on the research topic. My research topic is going to be depleted uranium. Uh, the Geneva Conventions have banned all forms of weapons that produce undue harm and suffering on its victims. Nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons of all forms have been banned from military use. However, the United States and its allies continue to use depleted uranium munitions because there have been no proven studies that these munitions are hazardous. However, the real-life case studies prove otherwise. I'm going to first start by saying, what is depleted uranium? Depleted uranium is basically the byproduct of enriching uranium. You take uranium, which is natural uranium, U-236, and in the enriching process, you end up with U-238, which is depleted uranium, and U-235, which is enriched uranium used for fission in nuclear reactors and nuclear warheads. Depleted uranium is not as radioactive as natural uranium, but it still does carry a radiological half-life, and it's hazardous if inhaled, eaten, or enters the body. One of its main characteristics that's important for its use is that it's 1.68% denser than lead. It's a very dense, hard object. Some of the uses for depleted uranium for the commercial sector are counterweights in aircrafts, radiation shielding, and radiography equipment, and containers used to transport hazardous materials. The main part of the speech is going to be on the military uses, because the military uses are the most harmful. The military uses depleted uranium for armor for tanks, vehicles, armor-piercing munitions, and incendiary rounds. If you're not familiar with incendiary rounds, they're basically rounds that are designed to burn and start a fire after impacting with an object. The main reason why these munitions are hazardous is because once depleted uranium in itself, it's a very stable and it's not a very hazardous material. However, once this object explodes, it puts microscopic particulates in the air that, if inhaled, you're basically inhaling small parts of radiation. And same thing when these incendiary rounds burn, they produce a smoke. People inhale that smoke, and then they're basically inhaling radiation. Another part with this weapon is when these bombs explode, if they're anywhere near a water source that people actually drink, again, these particulates will get into that water, and these people will be using this water for thousands of years, and the half-life of uranium, basically, that the depleted uranium is going to stay radioactive for thousands of years. You're never going to be able to get rid of these things. Next, I want to go into some of the case studies of the military use where they've actually used these munitions. The first major documented use of depleted uranium in munitions was the first Gulf War in the 90s. Studies proven by the United States Veterans Association that in 2001, depleted uranium increased cancer in veterans and unexplained diseases 30%, and veterans of the Gulf War have a 20% higher rate of birth defects than its non-Gulf War counterparts. In 2004, the UK Pensions Appeal Tribunal Service, basically the United Kingdom's Veterans Association, they determined that Gulf War veterans versus non-Gulf War veterans reported to have a 50% higher rate of birth defects than non-Gulf War veterans. So basically, there's a big correlation between these depleted uranium uses and having birth defects on the actual troops. These are just the troops who are only there for a short period of time. Now, take into effect the people who actually live in these countries they're exposed to this material for 50 years at a time. They're the ones really getting the short end of the stick. In 1999, there was a NATO bombing in Yugoslavia, and since then, they basically experienced a 200% increase in malignant diseases since 1998 to, I think this study was done in 2000. Again, this was one experience where a lot of the bombing particles ended up in the water source, and that's why they're having such a high rate of malignant diseases and cancers, because part of the water is coming from a slightly radioactive source now. And the biggest, and probably you're not going to really see the effects in probably another 10 years, but it's the current Iraq war. They estimated over 1,000 tons of depleted uranium munitions were dropped in the initial assault in Iraq from 2001 to 2003. I have more information on this. However, you need to watch the attached video on the handout. It gives you a first-hand look on what this depleted uranium is actually doing on the current population of Iraq, because they are the ones getting really exposed to the negative side of this. And another interesting part of this is it's called the Highway of Death. The Highway of Death is it's a highway in southern Iraq, close to Basra, near the Kuwait border. Basically, in 1991, after the Gulf War, when Saddam Hussein's troops were retreating from Kuwait, the United States military and the Allied forces, they bombed this highway of all these people, of all the Iraqi troops retreating from Iraq. They used depleted uranium munitions, and now they actually can go to that highway where they dumped hundreds of tons of these munitions on it, and you can actually see with radiological detectors that the actual highway is 1,000 times higher with radiation than any of its surroundings. So in conclusion, the United States government and its allies have been able to dismiss all these occurrences because they have shown evidence that refutes all of these claims. Basically, studies done on properly handled depleted uranium, which is safe. It is apparent that depleted uranium is a serious problem and should be classified as an unauthorized weapon by Geneva to stop this the undue suffering and people getting cancer from these weapons. Thank you.